Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Storr and I am NAU's Graduate Support Librarian. And today we're going to give you an introduction, and when I say we, I just mean I. I'm going to give you an introduction to using the NAU Online Library. I want to make sure you know how to access the library, and I'll show you some of the resources we have available to you, and then make sure you know where you can go to get additional help if you need it. You can access the library in a number of ways. You can get to the library within D2L under the course materials section. There is a link for the online library there. You can also just go directly to library.national.edu and that will take you to the library's homepage. So this is the library's homepage. All of our most frequently used resources can be navigated to directly on the top navigation bar, of course. What we're going to focus on right now are looking at these subject guides that we've made. Each program of study at NAU has a subject guide that's been created for it. We're going to go to the graduate study section, and then for now we're going to go to the business graduate program. If a student contacts me and says, I'm writing a paper on this business related topic, or I'm writing a paper on this nursing topic, for instance, the subject guides are where we generally start doing our research. So let's go first to the business graduate program subject guide. The subject guides all land on a page where you can search for journal articles for that particular program of study. If we look on the left side of the screen, you'll see the subject guides are broken up into journal articles, books, dictionaries, videos, websites, and then information for contacting me is available on all of the guides as well. We're going to focus on this journal articles section. Each subject guide will give you a list of all of the databases that the library subscribes to that you can use to find articles in that particular area. We get our databases primarily from two vendors, ProQuest and EBSCO. And their interfaces are a little bit different. The databases that we get from ProQuest look slightly different than the databases we get from EBSCO. But once you know how to use one database, those skills will translate over to the next. So don't feel like you only know how to use ProQuest databases and you shouldn't use EBSCO databases. Your skills will definitely translate from one to the next. And we're going to look at each of those vendors' databases today so that you can see what they look like and get an initial feeling for how they work. So you might wonder why you would use the library's databases rather than just doing a search in Google. You're in graduate school. Your instructors are expecting that you are going to be using highly credible sources of information when you write your research papers. If you do a search in Google, you can find credible information there, but it requires a little bit more digging, which means you're spending more time sorting through resources. If you go to the library and use our databases, we have tools that you can use to really quickly narrow your search down to peer-reviewed articles, for instance, or only newspapers. So you can save yourself a lot of time by getting comfortable with using the library's databases. We're going to do a search in just a moment and get into the ProQuest business databases, and I'm going to show you how to find peer-reviewed articles. But before I do that, I just want to spend a couple of minutes making sure that everyone understands what a peer-reviewed article is, because you'll be asked to locate them as you progress through your studies. It's going to be an expectation that you're really using those kinds of articles. So when we talk about a peer-reviewed article, we are talking about articles that are written by scholars for scholars. In a peer-reviewed article, you're going to see that the authors are very clearly identified. So peer-reviewed articles aren't written by staff writers, for instance. Like you might find an article in Newsweek that's written by staff writers. You're not going to find that in a peer-reviewed article. The author's credentials are listed. So you're going to see you'll be given some information that will help you figure out why the author of this article is someone that you should consider a reputable author. What makes him or her an expert on this topic? So you'll usually see if you'll get the author's degree information, like you'll see that they have a PhD, for instance. You'll see what university they're affiliated with. If you do a quick Google search for the author, you can usually find out exactly what's made him or her an expert on this particular subject matter. Peer-reviewed articles are usually a lot longer than popular articles. You're not going to get a lot of exciting graphics in a peer-reviewed article, but you might get some wonderful charts. A peer-reviewed article, they are long, so they usually also include an abstract, which is a summary of the article, which is a great thing to read before you actually read the full text of a peer-reviewed article. You can read the abstract and decide right then on the spot whether or not you want to invest 30 minutes in reading the rest of the article. And then a peer-reviewed article also comes with a reference list or a works cited list. So you're going to be able to identify very clearly where the author or authors found their information. And lastly, when we talk about a peer-reviewed article is considered so credible because it goes through a peer review process. And when we talk about a peer review process, that means that the author or authors submitted their research to a peer-reviewed publication, and there is a review board that looks at the research article and makes sure that it contains sound research methods, sound research practice for that particular subject area. So when we talk about credible articles, peer-reviewed articles are really at the top of that list. And we're going to get in the library's databases and make sure now that you know how to find a peer-reviewed article. So let me close this out. Let's back up to the library page. And we're going to do a search in this search box. This search box is searching all of our ProQuest business databases simultaneously. So we can do a search here. Let's do a really broad search for leadership development. And I'll click enter. I've been in this database today. If you are accessing the library from off campus, you are prompted to log in using your student portal credentials. Once you log in once, unless you clear your browser cache, you're good to go for the rest of that browser session that day, and you won't be prompted to log in again. So I did a search for leadership development, and this is a very, very broad search. Unlike when you do a search in Google, when you search the library's databases, you really want to only include those words or phrases that are most critical to understanding your topic. So you don't want to type in sentences. You really just want to pull out those key words and phrases that can help the database understand what types of articles you're looking for. So leadership development is super broad. One thing that I like to do is to use quotation marks. So right now the database is searching for articles that have the word leadership in them and articles that have the word development in them. And it doesn't matter what order those words appear in the articles that we're searching for. If I were to put quotation marks around this search, it's going to now only find articles that have leadership development right in that order, right next to each other. So it's searching it as a phrase in the database. So I'll go ahead and click my search button again. And that narrowed my results down quite a bit. Now let's look at some other ways that we can narrow our search down in the library's databases. So we have this full text checkbox here. If we click on that full text checkbox, That will limit our search to only showing us those results that are immediately available in the database for us to read. If you're being a really thorough researcher, I would caution you against using that full text limiter. It would be cost prohibitive if every database included the full text of every single article that's been published within it. And so a lot of times the databases might just include the citation for an article and the abstract so you can see what exactly the article is about. And although this particular database may not have the full text, we can get you the full text using Interlibrary alone, or it might be available in another database. So when you're being thorough and you're allowing the proper amount of time to do your research, you're not going to want to use this full text checkbox. The full text checkbox, though, can be great when your assignment is due in 4 hours. So there are definitely times when it's appropriate to use that checkbox, but I want to make sure you know that it's there. If we look on the left side of the screen, we also have a variety of ways that we can narrow the search down even more. Let's say we're asked to find newspapers, we can just click on that link and automatically our results will show us newspapers. If we want to focus on a particular date range, let's say we want only articles published in the last 5 years, for instance, we can slide the slider over and get to a date range that way, or you can enter a custom date range if you want to do that. So let me update my date range now to the last 5 years. So that's definitely helped. And now let me show you how easy it is to find peer-reviewed articles. It's the matter of clicking a checkbox, and we'll run our search again. So now we've narrowed our search down quite a bit. 6,000 is still a lot, so we would want to add additional terms to our search. For instance, we could say leadership development and women, let's say. And I think we have to do my date limiter again. It lost that. So we can keep adding additional terms to our search and focusing it that way. I want to open up an article here. Let's click on the title of one. And I want to show you those details that we spoke about that help you identify a peer-reviewed article. So here we've got the title, the authors are listed, it tells us what their affiliations are. A lot of times you'll get this recommended citation, which can sometimes help you depending on what style you're citing in. Sometimes they happen to be an APA style. You'll get the abstract, which is the summary. Always take the 30 seconds or 1 minute to read the abstract before you read the article. It can save you a lot of time in determining whether or not you want to invest more time in actually reading this article. You can see right from the abstract whether or not it's going to be helpful to your research. So we got the abstract. We can see this article is long. Let's scroll down. Where's the end here? What have I done? We've got conclusions. There we go. And here's our reference list here, so we can see that the authors cited the information that they used in their research. You can also, if you're ever wondering whether or not an article is peer-reviewed, you can Google the name of the journal. So this is the International Indigenous Policy Journal. You can go to Google the journal, find the journal homepage, and typically right on the journal homepage you'll see whether or not it's a peer-reviewed publication. So that's another way that you can get that information. So in addition to the full text of the article, on the right side of the page we have options. You can download the PDF. You can email it to yourself, you can print it, and then there are additional options. I also want to point out this site link here. If you click on the site link, you will get this APA citation. This is a great kind of first run at an APA citation. A lot of times there are mistakes on these. In this particular instance, it says retrieved from, and then it lists this long ProQuest URL. If we were putting this actual citation in APA style, you would want to see if this article has what's called a DOI, which is a digital object identifier. So what you could do is search for the title of this article in Google and see if it comes up as having a DOI. If you can't find a DOI for that article, then the next step is to say, instead of retrieved from with the ProQuest URL, you go to Google, you find the website for the International Indigenous Policy Journal, you find the journal homepage, and you say retrieved from, and you give the journal homepage URL. And the reason you do that is because not everyone who reads your paper may have access to the ProQuest databases, but if people have access to the internet, they can see the journal homepage if you give them that URL, and then they can find the article that way. They may be prompted to pay for it, yes, but at least you've let them know where exactly they can get to that journal. So just the caveat that the shell of the APA citation, it's a great start, but you always have to double check and make sure that everything is actually cited according to APA style. The last thing I want to mention before we back up to the library page is just that this database will let you create a separate account. It's called a My Research account. And that will let you save articles that you find to a folder, and you'll be able to access the folder anytime you come back to the database. If you don't create a My Research account, you'll lose any items you save to your ProQuest folder when you close the browser out. So that's why it's important to email yourself articles if you're not creating a My Research account, or download them to your computer so that you have a copy of them. Or you can set up that My Research account. It's free. It will just take you to a two-step process in order to log into the database. So you'll log in using your library credentials when you first access the database, and then you'll need to log into your research account if you want to add items to your folder. Having a research account is actually really useful when it comes to doing long-term research, because you can set up search alerts and you can tell the database to email you anytime an article is added that matches your search terms, for instance. Or if you find a journal that is publishing content that's really relevant to your research interests, you can tell the database to email you any new articles added to that journal each month. So it can be really useful, and in a little bit I'll show you where you can find a handout that walks you through the process of setting up a research account. So that's how to use ProQuest. And let's go back to the library page, and we can also really easily search all of our EBSCO business databases by clicking on this link. And again, we're just at the subject guides, graduate studies, business graduate program. Actually, why don't we switch over to the nursing graduate program, and we'll look at the EBSCO databases there. So our EBSCO nursing databases are actually the ones being searched in this search box. So I'm going to click here, and let's do the most broad search of all. We'll just search for diabetes. We'll click search. So this is what the EBSCO databases look like. They look different, but it works almost exactly the same. So we have the options on the left side. We can limit to full text articles if we want to. We can limit to scholarly peer-reviewed journals if we want to, just by clicking there. We can limit publication date if we only want the last 5 years. We can do that as well. If we click on the title of an article, we'll get additional information here. We can get the PDF. So there it is. There's our article. And on the right side of the information for that article, there are options for printing, emailing, saving. There's the Cite button. In EBSCO, you have to scroll down to get to the APA reference. And this, shockingly, well, it's not totally right. It has this 10-page information for some reason, and we don't need that. It should say 258 to 267, period. None of this 10p period information there, and then just go straight to the DOI. So again, it's a great start. Not totally completely right, but not bad. Oh, it's not right at all. Look at this. The title is all capital letters, and in APA style, an article title, only the first word of the title gets a capital letter. Any proper nouns get a capital letter, and the first word after a colon gets a capital letter, but this has chosen to put many words in capital letters, which is just not right. So you would need to double check against the manual and get that cleaned up. But that's, the basics of doing a search in EBSCOhost. So, and while we're at the while we're in the nursing database, I will just say that the databases make it easy to find evidence-based practice articles. There's a limiter here under the advanced search options. I went to advanced search and I scrolled down, and I can apply that evidence-based practice limiter if that's something I'm needing to do for my nursing research, for instance. And just like ProQuest, you can create an EBSCO account if you want to save your searches, set up alerts, etc. And you'll just use that sign in option that's on the top of the page. Now, a few more things I want to point out to you so that you'll know how to take on these frequently asked tasks that you might get in your courses. If you are given a citation and told to locate that article in the library, there are a few ways you can do that. Under the Find Articles section of the library page, you can search for an article by article title, or you can search by journal title. If we click on the search by journal title option, journal, let's say I'm asked to read an article in the Journal of Business Administration. So there are two different options. The Journal of Business Administration and Education is one journal, and the Journal of Business Administration Research is another. What you'd need to do, so let's say my article was published in the Journal of Business Administration and Education. You just need to make sure that the article that you've been asked to read is represented in the dates listed. So let's say I need to read an article that was published in 2014. I could use either of these databases in order to access that article. So if you click on the database link, it will open up to that journals page, and then you can search for the title within the publication, or you can scroll down and we can access particular issues from there. The other way that you can find the full text of an article, if we back up to the library page and we can search by article title. So if your instructor gives you a citation and says, find this, all you need to do is enter the title, the journal, the volume issue, and the date, and then run your search, and it will connect you with that article if it's something that we have available. If you need to find the full text of an article and it's not showing up when you do a search, and it's an article that you need to read, or it's an article, if you do a search in the databases and you don't use that full text limiter, and you come across an article that doesn't have the full text, you can request the full text using our interlibrary loan system. So there's a link for interlibrary loan right on the library homepage under Find Articles. And all you need to do is fill out the form and copy and paste the citation for the article that you need. Interlibrary loan typically costs you nothing, so just leave this at 0 and submit your request. And our interlibrary loan librarian, there's typically a very quick turnaround, and she's usually just emails you a PDF of the article. A few more things I wanted to point out. If we look at the tutorials and frequently asked section of the page, I'm going to go to the tutorial options, and I want to just point out a few things here for you. If you need a reminder on how to find the full text of an article from a citation, we've got a handout here that covers those methods. If you need a reminder on scholarly articles, you can access that here. We've got APA style resources as well. And then the other things I wanted to point out to you are that you can sync Google Scholar to talk to the NAU library. If you're someone that likes to do your research using Google Scholar, you can connect Google Scholar so that when you do a search there, it will automatically know which articles you have full text access to from the NAU library, and you'll be able to just click on them and access them within Google Scholar. So that handout is helpful for those of you who might want to do that. And then I talked about setting up accounts in ProQuest and EBSCO, and you can do that really easily following the instructions in this handout. I also want to point out under APA style, I'm going to click on the APA formatting and style section. And on this page, we have a large number of really useful APA-related resources. We've got a sample paper, reference page examples, in-text citation examples, and this document, which shows you how to set up Microsoft Word to format your paper in APA style. It also shows you how to access an APA template that's available in Word. So there's a lot of helpful information here. If APA is new to you, these resources can help you get started. The last thing I want to make sure you know about is Ask a Librarian. Ask a Librarian is our email reference service, and it's monitored 7 days a week. So if you have a question about using the library or you need help doing research, fill out this form and one of our librarians will get back to you. We're happy to help. We don't want the process of using the library or doing research to be frustrating for you. So anytime you find yourself not quite sure of how to proceed, maybe you need help identifying keywords for your search, please don't hesitate to reach out to us so that we can help you. We definitely are here to assist, and we're always happy to. So I hope this has been a good, quick overview for you all. I think that learning how to use the library early on in your term will make the process of doing research throughout this course easier for you. So hopefully you're able to hit the ground running when it comes time to using the library and locating resources that are going to be useful to you as you progress in your course. Again, if you've got questions, you can contact Ask a Librarian, or you can contact me if you go to any of the graduate studies subject guides. My contact information is listed there. I'm happy to do one-on-one Adobe Connect sessions with you if it would help you to have me kind of walking through the process of navigating our resources or helping you find something particular. I'll also just point out we have this library introduction PDF on that campus library info page, and that gives you just a summary of what we've talked about and points out some of the resources to help you. And again, gives you links to some of those tutorials that I think are going to be most useful to you as well. So again, feel free to contact me if you've got questions, or contact Ask a Librarian, and hopefully this has been helpful. Have a nice day.